Hi there, I'm Marius, and today we are taking a look at how you can get a JSON Web Token from your Power Page to authenticate your users against other services like APIs you or others have built. To get an authentication token from the Power Page, we will first need a certificate, and that needs to be uploaded in the Power Platform Admin Center under Power Pages Sites. Select your site. And then here is a menu point, Custom Certificates. So you just click New, you need a file and the password, and regarding the PFX file that shall be uploaded here, there are some requirements. And these are noted in this article, I will link in the description should the node change here. There are some requirements here. And the most important one for me is always, okay, it's a trusted certificate. So I cannot just generate it on my local computer as a self-signed certificate. It has to be a trusted one. It has to be PFX, it has to be password protected, and it must be in triple DS. So password protected and DS, this is something you can do on your computer. If you have the wrong format, you import it into your credentials manager on Windows, and then when re-exporting it, so while importing you mark it exportable, and while re-exporting it you can set a password and the encryption, and there you have, for example, here the selection between triple DES and AES 265. We have an intact certificate chain. That's also with a trusted certificate authority. That should be the case. And I guess any trusted certificate authority by now uses keys with at least 2048 bits. Also important, if you are using, let me close this, SSL certificate for a custom domain, you cannot reuse the same certificate. But what you can do, if for example that certificate is a wildcard certificate, you can create a certificate for a subdomain, and that certificate would be okay again. And in general, if you have wildcard certificates, you can pretty easily generate a new certificate here, because the custom certificate, as you can see here, does not need to be the same as the URL of the Power Page. So let this load for a second. Here you can see I've registered this certificate on my own domain, which is totally not the same as the Power Apps portal here. There's no custom domain, so yeah, totally unrelated. It just needs to be valid and trusted. Also, please note the thumbprint of the certificate. We will need it soon. If you are lost now and you don't have a way to get a certificate, bear with me. At the end I will explain a way to get a certificate for learning use cases as well as a production use case with Azure. The second thing we need is from Azure. Go to portalazure.com and you will always have an Entra ID. If you don't have it here in the services, you can just search for it, Entra, and you will go to Microsoft Entra ID. And here you have the app registrations in the left menu. And we need any app registration. A fortunate thing here, the portals already have an app registration, and I can just take this application ID here. But I could also create a new app registration should I want to have a different ID for some reason. There are no special requirements on this one, and since there's already a default one for doing the read and write access in Dataverse, why not use the existing one? And then in the Power Pages Management app, by the way, you can always reach this from the make powerpagesmicrosoft.com. If you selected your site, there is this link here in the ellipses for Power Pages Management. We want to go to Site Settings. I've already searched for the settings here with implicit grant they all have in here. So with a star, of course, because I don't want to search with start with. And the settings are: we need to enable the implicit grant flow to get tokens from the Power Page. We also need the certificate that shall be used to perform the implicit grant. So this is why you should note that. Then we need here the registered client ID. This is the one I've copied from the Azure App Registration. And then here this key is a little bit special because it also has the app registration client ID in here. And here with the redirect URI, you want to link to your sign-in page. The last one here, so implicit grant flow enabled, is by default true, and this is also a default value here, says how long your token is valid. So with all that in place, we can take a look at the Design Studio again. I've created a page here for my debugging. I've called it token, and this just has a simple text on it called loading. And if we edit the code for this page, you can really see this is just the div here with loading. And behind that, there is a JavaScript. I've plainly put it into the page here. And this calls a getToken function. And this getToken function makes a post request. This is important because in the past it would work with a get request as well. That's not the case anymore. To underscore services auth token, and then the client ID from the settings. And then we check the result for A. If the user is not logged in, you will have a responded JSON header, which tells you that you need to go to the login page. This is why you've added this this configuration right here to tell the page where the sign in is. And otherwise it will just print the text out to the page. So how does this look like? I'll visit the token page. I'm not logged in here, so it says please log in first. So let's look at this from the console. Here is the request to the token. It posted 200 OK, but the response is empty. And in the response headers, you see the X responded JSON 401, and we want to go to the sign-in page and then return to here. So let's log in. So let's get back to the token page. And here you see a long gibberish. And let's first take a look at what the request this time did. It posted OK again. The X responded JSON is not there. Instead, there was a response. And yeah, this is the long response here. So let's copy this. What's that? That's a JWT, which is JSON Web Tokens, and it's in the bearer format, and you can use those tokens to authenticate yourself somewhere. Let's paste this here, and such a token has three parts. It has a header, this is the red part here, which tells the reading application what you can expect in here. So a JSON Web Token with the RS256 algorithm for the encryption. Then the blue part here is the body, which holds the main information. And then the green part is signed with the certificate you uploaded earlier here. And that makes sure that no one tampers with the body part here in the middle. So the body part, well, if you decode it, it's just a JSON. And I think the most interesting here is the subject, because that subject, let's copy it out. If we take a look at our contacts, I will just open any contact here, replace the GUID in the URL with the one from the token, and that's my portal contact that I just logged in with. So if you have a custom functionality that will not adhere to the standard security model just because it's a server function or something like this, you can use this token to verify your user. So that would be the authentication. And if you use other supporting matters like the web roles down here, so we could say let's add the administrator role, and only if the person is an administrator they can use the function, or similar things like, okay, you can only read data that is connected to you. You could implement this via the contact GUID here. If you are already experienced with those tokens, you know that the audience is very important. The audience usually tells for what application the token is created. And that audience here is exactly what we configured in the site settings as the registered client ID. That means that this token is created by the Power Page and for the Power Pages app registration with the Power Pages app registration, and is created for the user with that ID. So now back to the problem with the certificates. To upload a certificate, it needs to be trusted. And to get trusted certificates, so there are many certificate authorities that can give you one, but they will all require that you give them a domain, and you need to prove the ownership of the domain. And usually, and that's our problem here, you need to be the owner of the primary domain and no subdomain. So I would be theoretically having control over the site whatever .powerappsportals.com, but I do not have control over powerappsportals.com, so I cannot use this URL. Basically, I think the only way to get a certificate is to create or to register a domain. Maybe that's the start of your very own blog right here, but yeah, you can get domains on the cheap really. So if you have a domain now, you only need to go to a certificate authority and get yourself a trusted certificate. There are free options. A free option is definitely Let's Encrypt. That's a project where you download and execute a software. They say on a server, but there's a manual way if you Google that, where you can execute it on your PC, and then they will send you a certain value. So where you've bought your domain, you can then enter this value, and they will publish this value for your domain in the DNS system, and then Let's Encrypt can verify that you are the owner because you've entered that value, and then they will give you a certificate. The other option that was free for me, because I do have an Visual Studio Enterprise subscription which has free credit on it, was an app service certificate from Azure. To create one, and you can see that this is $70 per year. There is an inherent advantage of this app service certificate over Let's Encrypt, and that is this thing runs for a year. Let's Encrypt is the maximum, I think, 90 days, and then you need to refresh the certificate. So with their tool, they have built some automation in there to do that automatically, but with the Power Page, you would need to build an ALM mechanism to replace the certificate, change the portal settings, and so on. So yeah, this is kind of convenient. and would even be ready for production use cases, although you need to even if you use the auto renewal, you would still need to replace those values yourself. So then you enter the domain you have the control over, and create the certificate. So after that deployed, I have my app service certificate, and that is not configured yet. So here in configure certificate configuration, you first need to select a key vault. I can select this one, which stores the secret certificate. Next, you need to verify that you are the owner of the domain, and I will skip showing you how I enter such a value into my DNS provider, because on every DNS provider this will just be different, but adding a TXT record should be standard. Also, this process of, okay, you order a certificate and you then need to add something like a TXT or CNAME record to your DNS with a certain value given to you by the certificate authority will be the same no matter where you order your certificate. So, and then let's take a look at the already fully configured certificate here. You have a button export certificate. This takes you to the Azure Key Vault. There you can select the current version, and then you have here the option download as certificate. And in this sample, this is then not protected with a password, so I needed to add the password by importing it and then re-exporting the certificate.